Good afternoon, everyone. I'm CPA Dennis Wabomba, Senior Examinations Officer, and I will be chairing this session. This afternoon, we have Financial Management, CPA Paper 10, and I wish to welcome all the participants. Thank you for sparing your valuable time to be part of this engagement. We cannot take this for granted. We are humbled that you have spared your time and chosen to be part of this. The presenter is setting up shortly. We shall have the presentation, and I wish you the very best as we interact. It is going to be an interactive session. In case we have a question, kindly share in the chat, or you can even put up your hand. Otherwise, I also bring greetings from the Institute. We are very grateful that you are here. So we wish you the very best of this engagement. Shortly, I'll have the introductions for the presenter, and then we shall have the presentation. So kindly be attentive and get the best out of this engagement. Thank you so much. Now, sorry for that. Our presenter this afternoon for financial management is CPA Mwezi Robert. Robert has vast experience in financial management. Robert works with the Uganda Human Rights Commission as a senior accountant. Robert is a partner in Robert and Dennis Company, Certified Public Accountants of Uganda. So I take this opportunity and honor to introduce CPA Robert to take us through this session. CPA Robert, you're most welcome, and please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairperson of this session, CPA Dennis. Good evening, everybody. My name is CPA Mwezi Robert. I've been already introduced, and I welcome you to this session of the student interaction. I hope I'm going to meet your expectations. So we don't have a lot of time. I need to move faster. Chairperson. Sorry for that. I'm just moving faster. The outline of my presentation is, as you see it on the screen, I will do revision, learning styles, revision tips, body behaviors in revision, and then I'll basically look at the comments from the examiners for the 3 sitting. That is March 2002, June 2002, and then the last sitting September 2002, and then I will conclude. I was also asked also look at strong areas and weak areas given the examiner's comments. So I tried to look at how the examiners were commenting on your performance. And I looked at the areas where you somehow, because given the trend, how you the students have been performing, and I just highlighted those strong areas, and I also looked at those areas where you are weak. So I still insist if you are going to do thorough revision, you need to still know these learning styles. Last time when I was presenting, that was in August, I emphasized these learning styles. We have different learning styles, because if you don't know what type of learner you are, then you will be reading and you are using a different method of reading or a different strategy, because you don't know what the learner you are, and it may affect your comprehension of what you are learning. But if you know what you want, you will apply it, and then it may help you. For example, we have a visual learner. Are you a visual learner? This is the type of a learner that will understand when he sees what is trying to comprehend. This is a type of learner where you want a demonstration. When you are a lecturer lecturing such a person, you have to demonstrate on the chalkboard or a whiteboard or whatever board, and demonstrate this person here what this person here is supposed to learn. And that kind of person will learn properly because he's seeing what he's trying to comprehend. So you need to know, are you that kind of learner? So that you need to do a lot of seeing, a lot of demonstrations, maps. If you are revising, for example, and that kind of learner, draw pictures, draw maps, rewrite in your own language. I mean, on handwriting. Then for you, you run. Sometimes you find such a person, as he goes into a textbook, he rewrites the textbook. Now, if you are a kind of a learner and you don't know that you are that kind of person, you're just going to get the textbook and you read it like a Bible, you'll end up getting nothing out of the textbook. So you need to know what type of learner you. Then we have an oral or an auditory learner. That is the kind of learner that comprehends better if he listens. If he listens to what he wants to comprehend. So if you know that kind of person, that is the person, most of the times you find this person here is, those one is see moving with what do you call this one you put in your ears. So if you are that kind of a learner, then you listen to audios. There are so many audios on the market. Go and buy them on financial management, on any other subject, and then listen to those audios. If you have a vehicle and you're moving in the vehicle, instead of putting on those gospel music or the other kind of music, put in a tape. Drivers, you are listening to what is financial management, what is working capital, what is capital budgeting. So that then at the end of it, you may pick it. But what am I insisting on? First, determine, are you that kind of a learner? If you are not, then you put in, if you are listening to such music and you are not that kind of a learner, you will be listening to noise. You will be distracted. You will forget what you even read in the books. Another learner is the reading or writing learner. This is the person who wants to, he comprehends as writing down. He's a person whom you even give notes, these pamphlets, and he's not comfortable. He wants somebody to write on the board or the chalkboard, and he picks and he writes. So if you are that kind of learner, please learn to write your notes. You pick books, write your notes. Get those pamphlets, rewrite the pamphlets if it's necessary. And then that's when you will now comprehend. Then you have the kinesthetic learner. This is the kind of learner who wants to practice what he has read. He learns more when he's acting. So now, if you're that kind of learner, then please apply what suits you. Solitary or interpersonal learner, that is the kind of learner that will want to read alone. He wants to be alone, doesn't want to be in a group. Even when he's in the class, he wants to sit behind, he sits alone, doesn't want to sit with any other person. So, are you that person? If you are that person, then don't sit in a group. Sit alone, go in places where you are alone, and then sit down and read. Of course, you may not avoid being in class with others, but if it comes to revising and you are that kind of a learner, please look for those places where you are alone. Get those places where you're not going to be distracted, and sit down and read because you are that kind of a learner. Then the last we have is the social or interpersonal learner. That one is that person who enjoys being in a group, discussions with the group. When he's in a class, he wants to sit where there are many people. Then you will learn better. But now when he sits alone, when you are that kind of a learner and you sit alone, then you may not understand, you may not comprehend better than if you are in a group. So, members, please try to discover what type of a learner are you. There are so many ways of how you can discover. Like for example, if you are listening to music and it is noise, then you are not that kind of learner. If you go into a group and when you are trying to discuss and you feel they are distracting you, then you are not kind of a social learner. So try to discover the kind of learner you are. I tried also to get some revision tips. When you are revising, what should you do? When you are revising, please try to ask questions. You ask questions, you ask your classmates. You can ask the lecturer if the lecturer is available. You can also look for technical people. Please ask questions. Don't just read as if you are reading a Bible. You are reading to understand. You are reading to understand, but not reading to remember. Please avoid reading to remember, but read to understand. And you're not going to understand if you don't ask questions. Now, in classroom arrangement, sometimes you fail to ask questions because maybe the lecturer could ask the other students, are we together? And the whole class says, yes, we are together. So you also feel not allowed to say, no, I did not understand. Or you may even say, I didn't understand. The lecturer explains again and again, and you are not even picking. So you not continue saying, I've not understood, I've not understood. So, and don't, even if you have not understood, don't give up. Ask the classmates who may have mastered the topic, or even look for the lecturer when you are alone, you and that person, but don't give up. 2, become involved from day 1. You start a semester, somebody says, "I don't know, I have time, I'll read. I'll start reading." That is a mistake. You need to start early. Start early. When you start early, you will avoid getting stressed at the last minute. You will have time to do a revision. You'll have time to ask where you don't understand. But when you start late, then you'll get stressed towards the end. And what happens, you reach an exam, you will start forgetting even the formulas, when actually even the formulas have been given to you at the back of the question paper, because you are stressed. You get the stress when you are revising because you started late, and even come with the stress in an exam room. Another tip is that don't just study smart. Study smart. Don't just study, don't just read. Study smart. Studying smart is how the strategies, like some of the strategies is what type of kind of runner are you when after discovering it? Are you, if you are a visual runner, are you drawing those maps? If you are an audio runner, are you having those tapes and listening to them? Do you have a timetable? That is studying smart, but don't just study. Study with a friend. Don't study alone. Even if you are up country there, I don't think you'll be alone in the district. You can look for other friends in the district and say, please, I want those people who are doing this course here so that we can share and understand. When you don't compare, when you don't have friends and you compare yourself, you'll think you have understood when actually you have not. So please, I advise you, study with friends. Don't cram. That's why I study to understand, study to understand, not to remember. Make a plan and stick to it. Test yourself. Don't just read. When you read the topic at the end, please say it. Even if you don't have a past paper, just look at the question and then, look at the topic and guess some question that may come from such a topic, and then give an answer to those questions given what you have read. If you fail to have answers to the question, then that means you have not understood. Go back and read and say, now, why have I failed to understand? Or if you have a past paper question, then answer it. If you fail to answer it, then go back and read. If you fail again, then look for the experts who will help you. Don't just ignore and say, no, this question may not come in an exam. You reach there and it is number 1. Then you're in trouble. Teach someone if you can. If you get somebody, the friend you are reading with, this time here, you just agree, tomorrow you are going to teach me this topic here. The other day, I will teach you the other topic. The brain will understand more even when you try to teach, because you cannot teach somebody when you have not understood. So you'll be forced somehow to understand the topic you are going to teach a friend. Then another one is take care of your health. You need to do some exercises. You need to be hydrated, drink enough as you're going to read. Then another one is respect your personal habits and abilities. As an individual, as a person, you have your habits, you have your abilities. For example, when can you concentrate? Because when do you concentrate? When you're going to revise, do you concentrate in the morning? Do you concentrate in the night, in the evening, in the afternoon? When? So don't force yourself. In the morning, you may not be able to concentrate because you have so many things that is starting ahead. Just now respect when you can concentrate. If you concentrate in the afternoon, fine, read in the afternoon. If it is the night, please read in the night. Then another one is don't stress yourself. Don't read the whole night. Don't read the whole night that you want to understand. Don't read the whole book. Don't read the whole, the whole. If it requires, you can even read a part of the chapter, as long as you can understand the chapter. Don't just read because you have finished the chapter. You stress yourself and you end up not getting anything. Another area that I'm still insisting on is the reading techniques. The reading techniques, these ones help you to understand, to read and understand and comprehend. There are situations when you pick a book or pick notes or your pamphlets, you read up to the end, and then even you feel like, I think I've not picked anything. Now, if you don't mind about that, you continue reading, people will just see you revising, when actually you are not picking anything. Your brain is not picking anything. You are not comprehending. What you are reading are not sticking in your brain. So I have those reading techniques. I had so many, but these are the best for you. One is we have the wrap. The wrap is you read, ask, and put the answers in your question. When you get this basically is good for a textbook. You get a textbook, just get a paragraph or a section, you read it. After reading it, ask yourself, what have I just read? What could be the question? Because now here you are reading for an exam. What could be the regular questions that may come from what I've read? And then, if the question, you set the questions and then answer them. Answer them, then you'll understand. But if you don't just read and read and read, you just read, but you not pick. So there's a strategy there called wrap. You can use that strategy. Another strategy is called write down. Write down. You just you read a section or a topic. After reading it, imagine the scene that you have just read. Imagine. In other words, in financial management, just when you read something, imagine when you see, imagine here, imagine how this topic is put in real life. I'm reading about dividend policy, for example. How is it put in real life? How is it applied in real life? Working capital, how is it applied in real life? Capital budgeting, how is it applied in real life? And unless you do that, you are going to read, and at the end you think even this subject here cannot be applied in real life. And when you do that, it will be hard for you to comprehend it. So now imagine, then describe it yourself. Then you can add even more details as you read. That's one strategy. Then another strategy is the 5S method. The 5S method, we have skim, scan, select, scarp, and summarize. As you are reading. Skim, you can read the introduction, you read the first sentence and last sentence. Just, in other words, just look at what you are going to read. What is it all about? You read the first paragraph, introduction. You read some sentences within. Then what is it all about? Now, where is the information I want? Because if you are going to read, a topic, there is information you are looking for from that topic you are going to read. So where is that information that you want? So then select, do you need to read the whole chapter? Do you need to read the whole book? Do you need to understand? No, maybe I need to part of it. Maybe the other part, I know it. The first part of the topic or the section, the first sections, I don't need even to read them because I know them. That is wasted of time. But no. Now, for example, let me give you an example. Maybe I'm reading at cost of capital. I just look at the cost of capital, specific cost of capital, weighted, equity, debt. Maybe those ones I'm okay. Getting the cost of equities, I'm okay. Getting the cost of debentures, I'm okay. Redeemable and irredeemable, I think I'm okay. But I think our problem is the weighted average cost of capital. Just go for that area. And that is the area that you've selected, then read it in depth, because the other parts you're okay. But I have a problem in weighted average cost of capital. Just go and read it comprehensively, and then you can summarize what you have read from that area that you've selected. That is the 5S method. Then another method is S2-3R. You have S, first S, and then 2, and then the 3 others. The first one is survey, S, question, read, recite, and review. Survey, just skim through the material you're about to read. It's like the other scheme we looked at. Look at the headings, look at the diagrams, look at the whatever, and then get an overview of what you're going to read. Question yourself, ask your question. Ask yourself questions about the material while you are reading it. Those are the things that have the question at the back of your mind that are likely to come from this topic I'm going to read. Then read the material. To understand or to grasp what you have selected to read. You can recite the notes, read, go back, read, go back, read, go back, understand, and then review. That is check your recorded notes against the section that you have read. Add anything important that you missed out. You can put some asterisks by these points so that you can attend them next time, because as you are reading, you can have issues. Say here, I read, but I think I did not pick this properly. That one will not stop you from continuing to read, but when you put those asterisks, next time you are reading, you say, no, but here I did not pick it. Here I did not understand. I read this, I did not understand. So now that one will help you now. If you get an expert, you'll have questions to this person here because you noted the areas where you had issues. But if you just read through and go, even if you meet an expert and somebody tells you, can you tell me the problem you have with in financial management? You start now looking around and say, I think here, I think there. But as you are reading, note those areas where you have issues. And when you get a chance to consult, you have those areas. Another area that I also still insist that I need to emphasize are those bad habits in revisions. For those who attended the last interaction, I highlighted them and I still want to highlight them because they are very important. If you don't avoid them, you may fall in deep trouble. One is starting revision late. I talked about those tips. You need to start early. Using passive revision techniques. Passive revision techniques where you revise, you are not questioning yourself. You are not using those techniques I've given you, where you read and read as if you are reading a Bible. Those are passive. You are not questioning yourself. You are not even examining yourself. So when you start using those, you read, I've been revising, but do you have anything in your head? Do you tickle your mind? Because if you are reading and you tickle your mind, say, hey, I thought I had understood how to calculating working capital, for example. Now you start calculating working capital, hey, I can't remember. You get what I'm saying? But if you use the passive revision techniques, you revise, but you have not understood. Starting to remember, not to understand, I highlighted that. Failing to know the exam format, that one I also need to emphasize. What is the exam format? how do you answer it? For you at your level, what is the exam format? The exam format, for example, I'm saying, do you have explain? Do you advise? Are you asked to advise? Are you asked to state? Because there are people who find somebody says explain to the management of such a company the importance of capital budgeting, for example. Somebody just states. That means you don't know the format. You lose marks. Advise. Somebody says you advise what you need to do. So each level of CPA has a format. So if you are at level 1, then you don't answer as somebody at level 3. If you are at level 3, you don't answer as somebody at level 1. So you need to know the format and then how you answer the questions. So if you fail to know that, then you lose marks when actually you have the knowledge. Failing to practice answering exam style, I think that one I alluded to that. Not stating the notes in your words. When you are revising, please state the notes in your own language, not the language of the textbook. In other words, rewrite the notes as you are revising. Letting the past exam results cloud your judgment. You sat first time, you did not make it. You sit second time, you don't make it, and now say, no, I think I'm not person who is going to pass CPA. No, that one shouldn't. Learn from the mistakes. Learn from your failure. Why did I fail? What do I need to do? But don't fail and then continue doing the same things. Why you failed last time? Maybe you did not read enough. Maybe you did not consult enough. Maybe you used wrong notes, because there's also an issue of using wrong notes. You are going to pick any notes somebody used in 2000 and you are using them in 2022. That's using wrong notes. You are going to read things when things changed a long time ago. These things change. Even financial management change. Not getting the support you need. I talked of the support from your group, support from the classmates, support from lecturers, support from technical people, even support from your family. You need the support, because some people should support you as you're advising. No, you are studying when you are an unknown person. You need that support from your family. If you don't get it, then you'll be in trouble. You are revising, somebody here doesn't even want to understand that you are revising. Said, no, I'm revising here, but no, but we need this and this. So if you don't get that support, then you have trouble revising. Not exploiting your own energies. You don't exploit, you have the capability to read and understand, but you are not minding. So those are bad behaviors in revision. Studying while distracted, not scheduling your time, not having a timetable. When am I reading? When do I read? When like you said, when do you comprehend? When do you concentrate? When you are reading, when actually you are tired, definitely you are not going to comprehend. Then another one is revising for too long at once. You read the 5 hours, you are revising, you are wasting time and not getting enough sleep. Another one is eating while revising. When you are revising, please avoid eating, because eating is also another job which requires concentration. So you cannot concentrate on eating and concentrate on reading. Excess comfort while revising. Please prepare your revision space. It shouldn't be uncomfortable and it shouldn't be too comfortable. Avoid reading while in your bed. Avoid reading while you're seated in your sofas. Even in the vehicles. The vehicles, when you're in the vehicles, it is uncomfortable also. Keeping disorganized notes or expired notes or textbooks. I told you about those notes that expire. Textbooks expire. Things change. So you need to move with trends, with current information. Not learning from your mistakes, we talked about that. Not making outlines while revising, not actively studying, that is passive for you. It is that if you are not actively studying, that means you are passive with studying. Demotivating yourself is where you feel, I think I can't make it. I think this topic here is hard for me. I can't understand it. Then you start now reading. As you reach there and you reach that topic, you jump it. This is not mine. No. That is also demotivating yourself. You need to motivate yourself. I can do it. I can, if others can understand it, why not me? I also understand it. Don't motivate, avoid demotivating yourself. This is a very bad habit of saying, me, I can't understand it. I think I can never do it. You find somebody telling another person, say, you know what? Me, for example, weighted average cost of capital. No. That one I never understand it. And when you just put that into your mind, it means you'll never understand it. So stop demotivating yourself. That is also ignoring difficult problems. You find something, feel it is difficult. Say, no, this one here, I'll never do it. So for you want to go for the easy ones, that is also a bad habit in revising. So members, now from there, I want to go to the comments from the examiners. As I told you, I looked at the comments from three things, that is March, June, and September. And I'm looking at each number and what the examiner commented. And this one here is very important for you. And see how the other students are behaving or how they are performing. So it can also help you where there are issues. You also, where you feel people have issues, you also know I need to put in a lot of effort here. In March sitting, question 1 had I think 4 parts. So I'm looking at each part by part, and then I look at the comments. Question 1, part 1 of question 1 required the candidates to compute the internal rate of return and profitability index. And the examiner is saying that most candidates depicted knowledge in this area of the syllabus and scored good marks. However, others failed to identify the relevant cash flows and the timing of cash flows. They had knowledge, but of course not. Most had knowledge. Others failed to identify relevant cash flows, and then even the timing of cash flows. Which cash flows are relevant in your decision making, and when do they come in or out? Part 2, the question required the candidates to determine the weighted average cost of capital. Determine the weighted average cost of capital. And the examiner is saying, candidates depicted knowledge. The candidates in this area, however, others used book values instead of market values as required. The question required determine the weighted average cost of capital using market values. Although candidates depicted knowledge in this area, but other students were using book values instead of market values. And some candidates computed the cost of redeemable debt instead of redeemable debt as required in the question. So here, as those who are preparing for this paper here, you need to know that as you are calculating the cost, the weighted average cost of capital, the situation where you can use market values and the situations where you can use book values. So don't just read and when they say weighted average cost of capital, and unless the question has not specified what to use, then you have to look at the question set Can I use market values? Can I use book values? But the advice I'm giving you here is that if you can have information to use market values, don't use book values. And that is the question I asked specifically asked for it. Then you said others, instead of calculating the cost of redeemable debt, they calculated the cost of irredeemable debt. Those are the areas that you must be very careful as a student here as you're preparing for this paper. The cost, the debt capital. The debt capital, you have to be careful. What type of debt am I dealing with? Is it a redeemable debt? You know, when I understand when I say redeemable, will it be redeemable? Will it be paid back to the investor, to the provider of funds? Or it has been given to the company and the company is going to use it forever. So the cost of such redeemable debt and irredeemable debt are not the same, and the calculation is not the same. So you need to take care of that, and that is where most students make mistakes. So here you see what happened to those who sat that paper. Others, they calculated the cost of redeemable debt as irredeemable debt. Of course, they lost mark. Part 3 required the candidates to explain the relevance of capital budgeting decisions and the cost of capital to organizations. And the examiner is saying most of the candidates had knowledge in this part of the question, and they scored good marks. So that area, and students are performing very well. Part 4 required candidates to explain 3 advantages of issuing preference shares to the issuer. What are the advantages of preference shares to the issuer? Most candidates got the answers right. However, those who failed were just listing features of preference shares, and others were giving advantages of preference shares to the preference shareholder, not to the issuer. The question was saying the issuer, not to the one who is what? Who is the buyer. So those are the areas that you need to note. Question 2 require the candidates to determine the economic order quantity and annual cost of managing inventory. So this is under working capital management, and most candidates had knowledge of this section of the question. And those who failed could not determine the annual demand, which needed to multiply weekly demand with 52 weeks in a year. So they were given weekly demands, weekly amount of the units that you needed in a week on a weekly basis. But the formula for economic order quantity has annual demand. So you needed to convert the weekly demand into annual demand, which some students could not do. And of course, they use the weekly demand as annual demand and lost marks. So these comments, you need them so that you don't make the same mistakes. Required candidates, that is part 2. Required candidates to explain the concept of economic order quantity and assumptions. And you say most candidates had knowledge in this part of the question. The few who failed were explaining the assumption of break-even point instead of economic order quantity. So economic order quantity has assumptions, break-even point has its own assumptions. So they are not the same. So you see what happened here. People confused the two. But they are saying most candidates had knowledge in this part of the question, which is a good thing. Part 3 required candidates to discuss the concept of total quality management and its relevance to organization. Total quality management in inventory management here. Most candidates misfired these questions here, as they instead explain this that is just in time with its relevance. Instead of total quality management, they confused it with just in time. Those are two different strategies of managing inventory. The other one is just in time, just you can have the product anytime you require it. You don't need to stock it. That's what they call it, stockless inventory, stockless management. Total quality management is about first determine what your client requires and then get the inventory and manufacture the item that your client will afford or your client requires. But it was mixed up and people lost marks. Part 4 required grants explain the factor that influence the period of credit granted to customers. The other parts were about inventory management. This part here is about receivables. Receivable management. Most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area of syllabus and scored highly. So students now, I think they are handling working capital management properly. Question 3, I have to move fast. Part 1 of the question 3 required the candidates to evaluate the viability of the proposed extension in credit periods. This is also working capital management and managing receivables. And then the candidates here lacked knowledge in this area of the syllabus. I don't know now what happened here. They failed to evaluate the effect on the proposed project since they could not calculate the incremental contribution. So this question here, I wanted somebody to advise whether a company can extend the credit period. You've given, like, for example, 2 months. But now you're saying, if you give these people here 3 months, what will happen? Are we going to get more customers that are going to buy because of extension? So people needed it now to evaluate and see what will happen in terms of increase in receivables, what will happen in terms of debts, in terms of bad debts, because you increase the receivables, even bad debts could also go up. And what will happen to the return? What return are we having? Are you going to get? Then you compare that return with the interest. Because now remember, when you extend your credit that you're giving your customers, it means the customers are not going to pay on time. So how are you going to finance your working capital? It means you're going to borrow from the bank. So you compare the return you get and the interest that they would charge you if you extended the credit here and you went to the bank, then you now advise. But students who failed to do that, and that means please, for you who are preparing, take it seriously, go and see whether you can make those decisions. Part 2 required candidates to determine the effect of a proposed extension in credit periods to debtors. I think it's related to the upon candidates computed the credit ratio in the current year, but forgot to compute the previous year, and yet they were supposed to give comparison. Others failed to determine the increment in the current assets due to the increment in receivables. So that is still an area, a gray area, inventory, receivable management in terms of extension of credit. Part 3 required candidates to explain the role of factoring houses in management of receivables. Sorry. Most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area of the syllabus and earned good marks. So it means you have the students have understood factoring in managing receivables. So please keep it up. For those who are preparing, please do that area. Part 4 required candidates to determine the break-even revenue for each machine and degree of operating leverage. And the examiner is saying most candidates wrote the formula correctly, calculated the break-even point correctly, but could not continue to multiply it with the selling price to get the break-even revenue required, while others failed to even state the formula and left this part undone. On the part of degree of operating leverage, most candidates showed lack of knowledge as most left this part undone. So for you are preparing for this paper here, are you okay in that area of the syllabus? You understand what operating leverage is? Break-even point. Can you get break-even sales, break-even revenue? So most students here, most, and the question is most. So there is an area there, there is an issue there. Please, if you are not yet prepared there, don't be caught off guard like those who sat that sitting. Part 2 required candidates to explain the concept of financing leverage and importance of cash budget statements in organization. So most candidates passed this one here highly, and they must pass this part of the question and scored high. So for you, if you are not yet comfortable there, please prepare. 5, the last question in March sitting was part 1 required candidates to explain the functions of gas securities exchange. And most candidates who failed were writing the functions of capital markets authority instead of the gas securities exchange. So in other words, there's a problem there. People are confusing capital markets authority with Uganda Securities Exchange. One is capital market, another one is a regulator. Capital markets authority is a regulator, it regulates Uganda Securities Exchange. So people are just confusing the two. Instead of writing the functions of USE, you put the functions of capital market authority. They have different functions. So please, if you have not noted that, please note it and go and find out what are the differences between the two and what in terms of their functions. Part 2 required candidates to explain the requirements for listing on the alternative investment market segment. And most candidates were writing listing requirements for the main investment market instead of the alternative investment market. Members, I was telling you here that things change. So for you who don't change notes, you'll have trouble. For example, here, I just want to give an example of Gas Securities Exchange. If you are reading notes of 2000, up to 2003, yeah, 2000, before 2003, you'll have issues. What you'll be listing will be different. You'll not understand what you talk of main markets and alternative markets, because at first they were first tier and second tier. So if you are reading notes where you still find listing on the first tier or listing on second tier, then you know you are reading all the notes, expired notes, or you are reading expired textbooks, which if it still has those things. Things have changed. You have main investment market, alternative investment market, fixed income investment market, then and the others. So please look for current books or go to Uganda Securities Exchange if you can access it here in Kampala. Go to Uganda Securities Exchange, they'll give you the latest information. Please avoid using old information. Part 3 required candidates to explain the listing procedures for listing on. This was just general. This one here, this was straightforward question, and most candidates who attempted it performed well, but a few mixed up the steps. A few. Lastly, these were general observations by the examiner that you need to be adequate. Students, you need to be adequately prepared to display knowledge required at this level. And that is what I went through at first. How do you prepare yourself to display knowledge required at this level? Use the time designated for reading and understanding the questions effectively for answering, to avoid misfiring and wasting time. Please, that this time that they give you at the beginning before you start, skim through the paper, go through the paper and then see which numbers I'm going to do. Skim through, please use that time. If you don't do that, it means you are going to start on number 2. When you've reached in the middle, then you cross, you go to number 4 and you cross, then you go back to number, you get what I'm saying? So please skim through and then use that time to choose the question. Take great care in presenting answers to numerical questions. It's a good examination practice to show workings. The examiner is here complaining you have an answer which you calculated, but somebody doesn't even know where you got that answer from. Is it from the calculator? Did you pick it from the neighbor? So please show workings. It's good practice, show workings. So you just write these are workings. Workings. Don't cancel them, don't cross them. I don't know where you show workings and leave the workings there. And they can also even take marks. Make sure that all questions requirements are appropriately addressed. Ensure that the entire syllabus is covered and avoid spot reading. Read the question carefully and answer appropriately. Those are the general observations and recommendation. Okay. So June, now I want you to compare. I want to compare March now and see what, because some questions can repeat and see how those ones who start March and those who start June and how they are performing. Required, that is question part 1, required candidates to determine the weighted average cost of capital using market values. I think we saw a question then, match sitting or working capital. Now the question comes back, still using market values. And what happens here? Many candidates exhibited knowledge in this area. It's good people have knowledge in this area, in the syllabus. Although some candidates failed to calculate the market values, still coming back. Still coming back, people failed to get the market value and instead used the book values to calculate the weighted average cost of capital, leading to loss of marks. The question was, use market values. So it is coming back. So it's an issue. Some candidates exhibit lack of knowledge in determining specific costs of capital. To calculate the weighted average cost of capital, you need specific cost of capital. That is equity, debt, preference shares, and others. You need to get to their costs. Candidates fail. So of course, when you fail to get the specific cost, you cannot get the weighted average cost of capital. Candidates fail to identify that the cost of redeemable debt, this one should be is, not as, is internal rate of return. And those who knew it failed to determine the cash flows in order to calculate the internal rate of return. Some of them calculated the cost of redeemable debt stock as if it was irredeemable. The same issue has come back. So there is still an area there, still a problem there of students determining how do I get the cost of irredeemable debt? How do I get the cost of redeemable debt? The cost of redeemable debt is IRR, but those who knew that it was IRR failed also to determine the cash flows to calculate the first NPV and second NPV, and then calculate the IRR. So please note that area is still a problem as you prepare yourself. 2, required candidates to compute the marginal cost of capital and advise management on the viability of the proposed project. Marginal cost of capital. That's cost of capital for additional funds, not the existing funds. Some candidates didn't calculate the marginal cost of capital. They only calculate the weighted average cost of capital and left everything. So in other words, they lost mark. And remember, this is question 1. They failed to compare the flotation cost and ended up with wrong answers. And others failed to identify the right cash flows. The right cash flows calculate the cost of redeemable debt stock. So it's still an issue. Part 3 required candidates to distinguish between weighted average cost of capital and marginal. So this one here was now testing the knowledge. Do you know the difference between the two? So most candidates define weighted average cost of capital as cost of existing funds, others cost of capital determined using market values, and the marginal cost of capital determined using book values. Some people think when you use book market values, you get weighted average cost of capital. When you use book values, you get marginal, which was wrong. The other one, weighted average cost of capital, it's for the existing funds. The marginal is for additional fund that you get to finance a proposed investment. Part 3, sorry, I think we're done with that. Part 4, require the candidates to explain the relevance of cost of capital in investment management. What is the relevance of cost of capital? I think most of them failed to explain how the cost of capital is used in decision making, like capital structure, dividend policy, and evaluating investment projects. Most failed. So please take it. What is the relevance of cost of capital investment management? Don't also fail like this one here. Please go and find out. 5, required the candidates to explain the ethical issues faced by the finance managers and suggesting ways how they can be mitigated. Generally, most candidates depicted knowledge in this area of the syllabus, which is very good. Please do. Great. Question 2, required the candidates to evaluate the viability of the proposed investments using the payback period. Payback period and internal rate of return. And they say the problem encountered by some candidates was failure to determine the right cash flows from the scenario given and ended up using wrong figures and getting wrong answers, leading to loss of marks. Some candidates failed to inflate the cash flows and others failed to deduct the costs from the revenue or treating them as cash outflows. So the issue here was the relevant cash flows. How do you determine the cash flows? So candidates, please know how to determine the relevant cash flows. Are you going to make decisions? Not every cash flow is relevant in decision making. For example, those sunk costs, fixed costs. Fixed costs, also somebody can test you. Fixed costs can be relevant, can be irrelevant, depending on whether it is going to change or it's not changing because of the decision. So the issue here was determining the relevant cash flows, and people here lost marks and could not calculate the payback period and the internal rate of return. Part 2 required the candidates to explain the management, the merits and merits of IRR. And the candidates depicted knowledge. So there is no problem here. People are picking, people understanding the IRR, the payback, the NPV, which is a good thing. Required candidates, I think there's something missing there. I think the relevance of capital budgeting decision organization. And most candidates fail to explain why organizations have to carry out capital budgeting processes. So candidates who are doing very well and understanding merits and merits of IRR, but now when it came to what is the relevance of capital budgeting, why do organizations carry out capital budgeting? So students, I don't know whether the problem is the way the questions are always Raymond, I don't know, because this should be an area which is simple. So, but for you who is preparing, just look at those areas where others are. Those who have sat have failed, and then please don't be caught off guard like maybe reasons here. Go and read on those why we use, what do you have carry out capital budgeting decision. For example, these projects they require a lot of amount, a lot of capital, and a lot of capital. If you lose it, you're in trouble. Sometimes they are irreversible. If you undertake such projects, you cannot reverse it. So such, find out. 3, why the candidates address management on the viability of extension of the credit period from 30 days, 60 days. Remember, we saw this question here in March sitting, and just look at what the examiner is also saying in June sitting, that the candidates that attempted this question dodged this part of the question, and they lost marks. They depicted a lack of knowledge in this area of the syllabus. So members, I think there is a problem in this area, because now this is June, March, there was the same comment, June, same comment. So please do something. Question 2, part 2, require the candidates to explain any 4 factors the company should consider when assessing the character of a customer prior to granting credit periods. Say candidates scored higher in this part of the question, except for a few who failed to understand that the question was specific on assessing one of the C's, the character, and instead they gave answers on how to assess creditworthiness based on other C's like capacity. They only wanted the character. How do you assess the character? Because character is among the C's, capacity and others. So the candidates could not know that you wanted now how you determine the character, but they just brought in other C's, which was wrong. 3, required candidates discuss the benefits of investing in receivables, and the candidates scored highly in this part of the question, which is good. That means candidates are preparing very well on working capital management, specifically on receivables, but the problem is still on extension of credit. Question 4. Required candidates calculate how much should be invested in order to accumulate a certain amount after a number of periods. And the examiner is saying most candidates had limited knowledge in this part of the question. They failed to determine the present value of the future cash flows. This area here is under future values. Future values of a single cash flow or annuity or perpetuity. So there is a limited knowledge here. Most candidates exhibited a lack of limited knowledge here and failed to determine the present value of the future cash flow. So for those who are preparing, please don't also be caught off guard. Part 2 required candidates to determine the value of the ordinary share and the bond. And the same, most candidates attempted this part of the question, scored highly, and depicted good knowledge in this area of the syllabus. This is a good thing. 3, required candidates to explain the features of a bond. Most candidates depicted knowledge in this area of the subject and scored highly. And 4, required candidates to discuss challenges affecting the growth of gas securities exchange. This was the question, and most candidates attempted it. Most candidates who attempted it performed well. So here we had issues the other time. I mean, in March sitting, where students were confusing capital markets authority with gas securities. But when it came to challenges, I think students were well prepared here. Question 5 of June sitting required candidates to evaluate the financial performance and financial position relative to industrial averages. Evaluate the financial performance and financial position. And most candidates here attempted this question. Although some of them did not score highly, most candidates failed to calculate and get the right answers. Most candidates wasted the time calculating ratios for 2 financial years and making trend analysis when the question required them to compare with industrial averages. So what it means here is that these are ratios. Somebody wants you to get the performance, but he has given you the industrial averages. Now, here what the examiner here means is that find the students are calculating the ratios for the 2 years, and you are wasting a lot of time. As long as you are going to get a trend with the industrial average, you just need to calculate ratios for the current year and just compare the ratios for the current year with industrial averages. But now when you waste time calculate for example, if you have been given 2021, 2022, and then industrial averages, and then you have to calculate all those ratios. Unless the question wants you to get the trend, you don't have the industrial averages, you are going to evaluate the performance and the position of this company here, and they have given you 2 years, then calculate the ratio for 2 years, and then get the trend. But as long as you've been given industrial averages, then calculate the ratios for the current year, compare it with, with the industrial averages. Sorry. Candidates, required candidates to explain the benefits of ratio analysis, and candidates exhibited the knowledge in this part of the question, and scores were above the average. Part 3, required candidates discuss the limitation of ratios in analyzing performance and position. Most candidates performed well in this paper, in this part of the question, and they scored highly. So apart from wasting time there, and then I think students were prepared here as far as ratio analysis is concerned. General observations and recommendation for June 2022 says candidates should be adequately prepared. I think it's the same like the other time. Some candidates' answers demonstrated lack of knowledge of the principles of financial management, and thus they need to read and understand financial principles. Answers demonstrated lack of knowledge of the principles of financial management, and thus they need to read and understand financial principles. What the examiner means here is that in financial management, you cannot gamble. Working capital is defined as working capital. The definition of working capital, weighted average cost of capital, capital budgeting, you need to read and get those principles. And when you're defining a financial management principle, somebody would just know, yes, he has read it. So the examiner is saying what the answers were being given, they depicted that students don't have those principles. They just gamble. There is a need to emphasize to students to always write numbers, always write the number of the question being attempted. Please write the number. What number are you doing? In the booklet, there is where you put what the number you are attempting. Please put that number. You don't just start answering the person who is marking or not to know what am I marking here. So please don't lose marks because you have not written the number of the question that you are attempting. Some candidates don't write the question being attempted, and this confuses the mark on the. I think this is the same thing. Eh? So those are the observations in June 2002. Also, they are continuing, sorry. Students need to use the time designated for reading. We looked at that. Students need to take great care in presenting answers to the numerical questions. We looked at that. Students need to ensure that the entire syllabus is covered. I think it was also there. Students need to read the question carefully and answer appropriately. So I also looked at September sitting. So we need to look at those things. Have they repeated themselves? I'm going to move faster. Question 1 was about advise management on financial viability of a proposed project using NPV. We all looked at that, and say most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area. Although some candidates failed to identify relevant cash flows, like the incremental fixed costs, working capital, variable costs, and the contribution. So it's the same, the comment is almost the same as the one we looked at. The issue is on how to identify the relevant cash flows in capital budgeting. Most candidates failed to incorporate tax determining net cash flows, leading to loss of marks, while others computed depreciation that was not required. So depreciation, if you've been given cash flows, depreciation is not a relevant cash flows. You need a depreciation if maybe you've been given accounting profits. Because the accounting profits and you want to use NPV, you'll have group for the depreciation, add back, and then you get cash flows. But if you've been given cash flows, then you don't need to calculate depreciation, will be an irrelevant cash flows. Part 2, candidates were to advise management on the advantages of NPV, and most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area and got good marks. Part 3, candidates were required to advise management on whether the decision would change if the internal rate of return was used instead of NPV. Most candidates failed this part of the question because they failed to identify the relevant cash flows in part 1 of the question, leading to wrong marks. So the one who failed to get the relevant cash flows, of course, failed NPV. Now you will not pass IRR. Part 4, to advise the candidates to advise management on the criteria for accepting or rejecting an investment proposal. Most candidates exhibited the knowledge in this area of the syllabus, and most candidates scored highly, although some gave one side of the question. Some candidates would either give situation when you accept a project without giving situation when you reject. Because the question was advised on management on the criteria of accepting or rejecting. So candidates will just give area when it is when the NPV is positive, accept, without now saying when it is a negative, reject. Part 5 required the candidates to advise management about the stakeholders of the organization and the objectives. That is also an area of finance function. Most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area of the syllabus and scored highly, although some were only stating the the stakeholders, without explaining the objectives and interests in the organization, leading to loss of marks. So take a note there. Where they went wrong, please correct it. Question 2, part 1. Candidates were required to determine the weighted average cost of capital using book values. Weighted average cost of capital, we started with it in March sitting, June sitting. Both of them were asking for using market values. In September sitting, get weighted average cost of capital using book values. Specific, it is specified. Most candidates failed to compute the cost of equity correctly because they failed to identify that the dividend was expected dividend. Of course, here, before you calculate the weighted average cost of capital, you need specific cost of capital. One of them is equity and debt. Now here, candidates failed to get cost of equity. One, they failed to use the dividend valuation model. where you need to determine what type of dividends have I been given. Are they expected dividends or they are current dividend? Where you use a D1 or a DO. So in this question here, the dividends were expected. They expected to pay a dividend, and therefore you needed to have used an appropriate formula. But students here used a formula for the current dividend and the Ross marks. Most candidates calculate the cost of equity using a formula for current dividend leading Ross marks. Okay. Most candidates fail to calculate the cost of redeemable debt stock, which is internal rate of return. We saw that in the other sittings, March and June. Students are failing to calculate the cost of redeemable debt stock, which is internal rate of return. Please do something about it. Most candidates fail to identify the right cash flow to use in calculating alternative NPV. Those who identified them failed to incorporate the tax element. There is an issue on identifying the relevant cash flows. There is an issue on calculating the cost of redeemable debt stock. And here I want you to note those areas where students have been getting issues and see how you can correct them. Most candidates fail to identify the book values in order to determine the proportion of each source of finance to use in determining the weighted average cost of capital, leading to wrong marks. Book values are always given in the question. Just pick the value of debts. The value of debts you've been given, the value of equity, the way they are in the question. Those are book values. If they are market values, you need to get market values, getting the number of ordinary shares times the market price, number of ventures times the market price. But students fail to determine book values, which were just given in the question. Part 2 required candidates to explain the management, the merits and the merits of using debt finance in business. And candidates scored highly in this part of the question and they depicted the knowledge in this area of the syllabus. 3, most candidates, required candidates discuss features of bonds, tradable financial instruments. Most candidates failed to discuss the features of the bond. And instead just stated they have coupons, maturity period, redemption period, secured and secured, leading to loss of marks. 3. Part 1 of the question required candidates explain the shareholder the different ways in which the company can raise finances from Uganda Securities Exchange. Uganda Securities Exchange has come back. Most candidates exhibited knowledge in this area of the syllabus, although some candidates gave the listing procedures listing to loss of marks. Different ways in which a company can raise finance. Others failed and they gave listing procedures. Part 2, where the candidates explain the role of Uganda Securities Exchange in economies like Uganda. What happened this time around? Most candidates did not perform well in this part of the question. Like we have saw in the previous sittings, most candidates were explaining the roles of capital markets authority, like licensing, regulating operations of various stakeholders, registering new companies, and investor protection, providing job opportunities, ensuring economic stability, and setting price, leading to loss of market. Those are not the role of Uganda Securities Exchange. These are the roles of capital market authority, and this is what the students were given according to the examiner here. So please do something about it. I told you, go and find out the difference between the two in terms of their roles and functions. 3, required candidates to discuss the challenges faced by Uganda Securities Exchange in execution of its mandate. Here, candidates scored highly in this part of the question, like we saw previously in the other sittings. Those who lost marks were giving answers like political instability, competition from developed stock markets, inflation, instability, lack of branches, inadequate funding, political instability, all that kind of thing, which is not the. Question 4, required candidates prepare a report to the CEO for onward submission to the board, analyzing financial performance and position of the company. We looked at that in the June sitting. And we said most candidates would only compute ratios and stop there without analyzing, leading to the loss of marks. The question wanted students, sorry. The question wanted candidates prepare a report to CEO for onward submission to the board, analyzing the financial position. So there is no way calculate the ratios and you don't analyze and then you think you have answered the question, you lose marks. Part B required candidates to explain the limitation of ratios in assessing the financial position and position. And most candidates who attempted this part of the question scored highly and depicted good knowledge in this area of the syllabus. Those who failed were giving answers like the ratios are hard to compute, need professional skills to interpret them. Use of different formulas will give you different answers, which are not correct. Those are not correct answers. Question 5, the last question. Sorry. Required candidates to evaluate the viability of extension of credits. You know, it has been a problem in the other previous sittings. There is a problem here of determining the extension of credits. How do they perform this time around? Most candidates who attempted this question depicted lack of knowledge. There's still lack of knowledge. Candidates out there, there's still lack of knowledge in this area of the syllabus. Some completely left it blank, and those who tried got the incremental sales, but failed to determine the incremental investment in receivables, and hence could not determine the return on investment. Part 2 required candidates to explain any 3 factors in formulating accounts receivable management policy. Most candidates here were gambling. They were giving answers like the 5 C's, marital status, bank statements, operating cycle of the company, cost of maintaining receivables, which are not correct. So there is still a problem in receivable management, working capital. Part 3 required candidates to give advice on any ESCO challenges encountered by financial managers and possible ways. We looked at this question in one of the sittings, and we are saying most candidates performed well in this part of the question. Those who failed were just giving ESCO issues without explaining how they are challenges to finance managers. The question wanted advice on ESCO challenges encountered by finance managers and the possible ways to mitigate. Just you give an ESCO issue, but how is it a challenge? How is it a challenge is what was lacking. So we need to go and see how we can. You know these issues when you read them, you know them. Conflict of interest. How is it a challenge? Finance management. Inside dealing. How is it a challenge? Let's just give inside dealing. Self-interest. All that. No. How is it a challenge? That was the question, not the question. So the question has been coming and candidates are answering it the same way and failing to answer it properly. So lastly, on the observation here, the general observation is still in December. I don't think it has changed so much. Almost the same. Almost they're the same. They're the same. Then also, as I was going through these comments from the examiners. I looked at those strong areas where candidates are performing well. So capital budgeting, yes, students are okay. Identification of cash flows, they are just there. Management of inventory, yes. Economic order quantity, okay. Management of receivables, you saw on factoring, people performed very well. And then the weaker areas, determining the cost of debt, mostly the redeemable debt is a problem. Determining the weighted average cost of capital, I think I needed to have also added there even the marginal weighted average cost of capital. Management of inventories, total quality management. Management of receivables, extension of credits and discounts. Capital markets, the difference between the Ghana Securities Exchange and Capital Markets Authority. And then leverage, where we have the financial leverage and operating leverage. I'm seeing this still a problem. So I want to conclude that to pass exam, one needs to prepare properly. Don't expect miracles to happen when you're in the exam room. Prepare properly, one needs to start as soon as the semester starts. Many students struggle with exam revision because they start late. Do not cram because you are being prepared to solve real life issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, CPA Robert, for that presentation. You have really touched quite a number of areas. And for the participants, at least you have had an opportunity to go through some of these comments that have been raised by the examiners. And please try to address some of these areas. In any case, you have also been having challenges around there. Try to practice like he has encouraged you, so that when we are going to appear before exams, we are more prepared. There's a lot of computation in financial management, and most subjects that have computation areas, they require a lot of practice. You need to keep practicing. As we prepare for December exams, try to go through this that he has ably explained through the different sittings. He has looked at March, he has gone through June, then September, the general comments, and even the other areas where you need to pay attention. Try to go through them so that in any case, you are able to perform much better. I trust you have benefited from this discussion. Kindly feel free to raise your issues in the Q&A. I see there are already comments there. And otherwise, to share with the team that is attending this engagement, I have a comment from Mr. Joseph Onyango Ignatius. He's wondering if the slides will be shared. Yes, I want to assure you that the slides will be shared. After the engagements, engagements are still running. They started last week. They are still on. The last engagement is on Thursday from 5 to 7, integration of knowledge. So we hope after that, the engagements will be uploaded. The previous ones were also uploaded. Kindly, if you need to access them, they're also uploaded there. So, Joseph, be rest assured, the slides will be uploaded for each one of us to share. Thank you so much. Then in the Q&A, there's one from Andrew. He's wondering if we can get the recording for MDC, that is Management Decision and Control, and financial reporting engagement. He says he missed them. Thanks. Yeah, Andrew, like I've said, we are going to share both the slides and the recordings, and they will be uploaded like we have done previously. So we hope to do that at the end of the engagements so that we all benefit. Otherwise, let me see if there is a hand. Oh, sorry. And in the chat, I'm trying to see in the chat, kindly be encouraged to raise a comment in the chat. Otherwise, we have a few minutes that are remaining that we can make best use of. Joseph and Andrew, the slides and the PowerPoint, sorry, the slides and the recordings will be shared. Otherwise, the presentation has been very insightful. This, if it takes us through the different comments, the different areas, try to look through, reflect, go back and see where you need to improve, and then shall be good to go. Yes, I see one from Mr. Ruva Bumali. He says he's very grateful. This time round, he says he's going to pass paper 10. Yes, we have seen your comment, Mr. Bumali. He says this time round he's going to make it. And I'm sure many of you will make it. You know, when you look at this and you are able to address some of these areas, it will help you not only in exams, but even in life after this paper. Yes, in the comments, there is this anonymous. Anonymous, we encourage you to always identify yourself so that we know the persons we are dealing with. However, we shall read it because we trust whoever is here wants to benefit from the engagement. So one from anonymous is, where are the presentations uploaded? We upload the videos on YouTube, and the presentation, when you check on your account, they are there. There is one from Robert, John Robert. He says, please, CPA team, is there alternative of following SCCA marking approach of understanding the candidate's knowledge? Yes, we have seen your comment. Then there is one from Paul. Karwani Paul. Paul says, I think, Robert, you can take note of this. Robert, kindly take note of this. He says, what could be the answering style or format for theory questions? What could be the answering style or format for theory questions? That is from Mr. Paul Karwani. Otherwise, Joseph says, this is so insightful. Thank you so much. Of course, Robert, before handling this, We are very sorry for that. Yes. We're very sorry for that. There was some small technical challenge, and I think it is now sorted. Just requesting for 1 more minute. Sorry for that. Robert, just to go through some of the issues that they had wanted you to address. One, from Paul, what could be the answering style or format for theory questions? What could be the answering style or format for theory questions? Otherwise, Joseph Onyango Ignatius says, this is so insightful. Thank you so much. Yes, Muiza, we are going to share the videos. Otherwise, there is one from Robert. He says, please CPA team, is there, Robert, I think you can also note this, is there alternative of following SCCM marking approach of understanding the candidate's knowledge? Of course, we are not having a presenter as an examiner, but at least he can give an insight about this. Is there alternative of following SCCM marking approach of understanding the candidate's knowledge? Then the second, the answering style or format for theory questions. Thank you so much. Robert can handle this. Kindly, we shall have another set and then we conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and thank you very much for the question. Answering a theory question under this level here, like I told you, you need to read your syllabus first. In the syllabus at the beginning, you have what you're expected of at this level, financial management. So you need to look at, when you're answering this question, you need to look at what we call the verbs that they are using in the question, or the verb, or the doing words. What I mean here is that when they are setting a question, they are those verbs, they're doing words. Explain, for example, I'm giving explain, advise, describe, evaluate. So those are the doing ones that you need to be careful with as you're answering a question. Don't answer a question which is saying explain, you're answering it as if it was saying state. At this level here, I don't think you can meet a question. I mean, any questions that requires you to state. No, this is not your level. That level is now level 1. When you go level 1, ATD, there you can find ETD also at certain levels, you can find that. So each level here, what I want to advise you that each level here, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, they have, you can find they have different the answering format, and even these verbs or the doing words will somehow differ. So be careful when you are answering the theory question. Look at the doing word. Are they asking you to explain? Are they asking you to evaluate? Are they asking you to advise or to describe? So that's what you have to look at. Don't just answer because you know the answers without answering that doing word. That's how I can answer your question. Then somebody asked about borrowing SCCA format in understanding this. I don't think that one has a problem. All these are financial management. Financial management is financial management, whether under SCCA or under CPA Kenya or under Scotland, SCCA Scotland. Their financial management is financial management. So there's no problem as long as it's for your level, the equivalent of this level here. Because as I told you, this level here is trying to test the understanding of the principles and the comprehension of these financial principles. So don't use SCCA format of a level that is above this one here. It will confuse you. So look at a level that is equivalent to yours here and use that format. There is no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Robert, for the responses. I think you have been able to address the issues that have been raised by the candidates. Just for information, we hope to end this engagement at around 4. So before that time, we'll have concluded. Yes, there was someone who had asked about the YouTube channel. It is the ICPAU has a, when you're on the internet, you type in ICPAU, YouTube ICPAU. It says, I've got the information from the IT person. It says there's a YouTube channel where we have the ICPAU videos. But even if you just type in YouTube ICPAU videos, it is able to bring those videos. But those are for the past engagements, please. These we have not yet uploaded them. Otherwise, there is a continuation from John Robert. He says, let me see where it comes from, because here he says, because most candidates fail, yet they have full understanding of the topics, but only they haven't got the exact. Robert, kindly retype in the chat so that it is more clear. Kindly, John, Robert, so that we benefit for the benefit of all of us. Robert, if you can type again, I see here from what you have typed, it says because most candidates fail, yet they have full understanding of the topics, but only they haven't got the exact. I think, Robert, would you like to say something? I see some full understanding and then even failing. Maybe you can handle that. That it happens that some candidates have a full understanding of the topics, but they end up not faring well. If that is what John actually meant, maybe you can, so that at least all the issues raised are handled. Robert?
Thank you very much, Dennis, and thank you very much to my namesake, John Robert. Saying candidates, the full understanding, having full understanding of the syllabus and then failing, I fail to understand what you mean. Now, you understand the subject, but you are failing. Now, maybe that's why I'm saying you need to find out from the experts, so need to maybe engage. I would advise for you, maybe you may think you understand the subject, when actually you may not know. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I don't know that advice I can give you. I don't know the advice. Maybe can you get some past papers, do them, work on them, get an expert to mark you, and then see where you are failing. Maybe for you, maybe think, when actually you don't know. So maybe you may be knowing the answers, but maybe the way you answer them, that also could be an issue. I'm just guessing. I don't know. Maybe the way you answer could also be a problem. Like we are saying, these being words. If somebody says explain and for you are stating, maybe could it be the reason? describe, discuss, and you're not discussing, that could also be reason, but you need to find out. I don't think when you understand the subject, you should be failing it. No, it shouldn't be that way. There should be a problem somewhere, which you need to get a solution. You need to sit with the experts and say, I think I know weighted average cost of capital, which you feel has been coming in all these sittings here. But how am I failing? I think I know it. You may find you don't know it. And then we don't, and when you think you know it and when you don't know it, then you'll never know it if you don't find out. I think we need to have a solution to that. But I'm not sure. I don't know whether I've answered it. I don't know where somebody who knows the subject that is failing. I'm failing to understand. But the answer I would give you, please find out from the experts one-on-one. This is what I think, and I don't know why I'm failing. Find out from the experts. Otherwise, you may find there are issues. You may have gotten something this way when actually it should have been gotten the other way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, CPA Robert Mwez, for you have really done justice to financial management. At least we have been able to pick a few things there and then. So we have just a few minutes left, and in the chat, the questions are fully exhausted. I wish to once again thank Robert on behalf of ICPAU, and wish the participants the very best for those who are preparing for financial management in December. Thank you so much. We can stop here, members.